In today's video, we're going to continue our 2018 NHL Prospects Series Report, where we cover all 31 NHL teams and do a deep dive analysis on their full prospect pools, including their 2018 NHL Draft selections. Today's team we're discussing is the Vegas Golden Knights, and that's coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top here, today we're looking at the Vegas Golden Knights top prospects. So like I've done in other videos in this series, I'm going to be taking a look at their top 6 prospects in their organization, analyzing when they're likely going to make an impact on this club. As well, we're also going to take a look at the 2018 draft summary for all the players they selected to see who else they've added here to the prospect pool for the future. I was hoping to have a special guest for today's video, but unfortunately Louis from Vegas Golden Knights coverage and I couldn't coordinate our schedules to make that happen. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go through the prospects, but I do have links to some videos on his channel I'm going to recommend that you check out. So as we discuss each prospect, he does have some videos up on his channel that I'm going to recommend you check out afterwards as well, and I'll get to those as we discuss each prospect. First up, we've got goaltender Dylan Ferguson. Now, Dylan Ferguson was a 2017 7th round selection by the Dallas Stars. Now, he's played his junior hockey in the Western Hockey League for the Kamloops Blazers. Obviously, Ferguson, since he was drafted by Dallas, ended up getting traded over to the Vegas Golden Knights. And even though he is a brand new goalie drafted in the 7th round last year's draft, he made his first appearance this past year for Vegas, and something that you never really see. As we all know here, the Vegas Golden Knights went through a lot of goaltenders in their very first NHL season. We saw goalies like Marc-Andre Fleury go down with injury, followed by Malcolm Subban, followed by Maxime Lagacé, Oscar Dance. I mean, at this point, they were on goalie number 5. Dylan Ferguson was actually called up from junior to the Golden Knights and did make one appearance. So for Dylan Ferguson to be drafted by Dallas, off to Vegas, plays in junior, comes up to the NHL all in 1 year, certainly a whirlwind, but he certainly handled it like a trooper, and I fully suspect that it's going to be good for his development here long term. During his WHL season this past year for the Kamloops Blazers, he got into 59 games. He finished with a goals against average of 2.95 and a save percentage of .907. So not absolutely going to blow you away with those statistics, but based on the Western Hockey League, those are not terrible, and he certainly continued to develop well. Dylan Ferguson has incredibly quick reflexes, and for me, one of his biggest strengths is his ability to read the play and track the puck through traffic. If you watch a lot of his highlights, you'll see that even with a whole bunch of traffic in front of him, he still has an uncanny ability to track that puck down, and once that puck reaches through, he's pretty good at scrambling and covering up the rebounds as well. The one area of Ferguson's game I like to see him work on would be his glove hand. I've seen him be beaten on that side way too many times, and also I've seen too many cases where he's knocked the puck down but did not trap the puck cleanly in his glove. So obviously his glove hand is going to be an important piece to being a successful NHL goaltender, so that's something he's going to need to work on here. At this point in time, Dylan Ferguson has a lot of time to develop here. The Vegas Golden Knights are not going to be in any rush to try to get him to the NHL on a full-time basis. As we know, they've got lots of goaltenders under contract here, so there's certainly no rush. But at this point in time, I do think with the amount of experience he gained in the past year, he's certainly worthy of being one of the Vegas Golden Knights' top prospects. And longer term, probably like 2 to 3 years from now, if he develops strongly enough with his potential, he'll have a shot at being probably a backup goalie in the NHL. Next up, I want to discuss center iceman Jake Leschyshyn, who was taken in the 2017 NHL Draft, number 62 overall. Now, Jake is a second-generation player here, hoping to be a second-generation NHL player. His father, Curtis Leschyshyn, played in the NHL a long time, played over 1,000 games. He was a really strong defenseman. Depending on how old you are, you may or may not remember Curtis Leschyshyn, but he played for quite a long time in the NHL and was a very respectable player. Jake Leschyshyn's not an overly big player. He's about 5'11", 185 to 190 pounds. Yeah, he did suffer a setback during his draft season where he had a torn ACL. That certainly did not help his development and certainly did not help his draft rankings at all, which is why he fell down to number 62. But overall, I think he's rebounded well from the injury. He's healed up and is ready to continue on here with his development. Leschyshyn is a very solid two-way center iceman, very responsible defensively, good on faceoffs. He does have some offensive upside, but I do think more than likely, should he crack the NHL on a full-time basis, probably in a couple years' time, You're probably more than likely looking at a number 3 to number 4 center iceman. That's probably where the ceiling I think he has, but he's a really hard worker. Like I said, he comes from a hard-working hockey family, so that hard-working down in the corners, along the boards, in front of the net, he could really certainly be a grinder for sure. So I do see him likely becoming an NHL player. I think the odds are pretty good, but likely in a bottom 6 role where he can be a good penalty killer, good on faceoffs, and a good character guy for the team. Next up, we have left shot defenseman Niklas Haga, a 2017 second-round selection, taken number 34 overall out of the OHL Mississauga Steelheads. This guy is an absolute monster. He's about 6'6", 215 pounds. Not only is he big and strong and can play physical, but he's incredibly offensive and he has a great leadership qualities. He's been the captain for the last season here for the Mississauga Steelheads. He played 67 games last year and put up 78 points, which for a defenseman is incredibly impressive for sure. For a big guy, he's not afraid to use that size. Obviously, it helps him with his defensive game in front of the net, kind of blocking players out, blocking shots, good into corners, along the board. So he's certainly not afraid to use that size and strength. He does have a bit of a mean side in a physical game, which can certainly go a long ways at the NHL level for sure. He's certainly no slouch to the offensive game as well. He's got a pretty good first pass out of the zone. Now, skating at one point was looked upon as a weakness for him earlier before he was drafted, but it is something he's focused pretty hard on, and can certainly say through the highlights I've seen that he has shown improvement for sure. Still something he's going to continue to work on. Obviously, for big guys like that, when you get players 6'5", 6'6", it is a common attribute to have trouble with, that the skating sometimes is an issue. They tend to have a little bit more difficulty getting around the ice at a faster pace, but it is something he's working on for sure. I wouldn't say speed is certainly a strength for him, but he's not a slouch either. Like, he is a pretty good skater now. I can see Haga projecting as a top 4 defenseman for sure. I mean, at this point in time, you combine that size, strength, physicality with that offensive abilities. It's kind of a rare skill set. So I think the Vegas Golden Knights here kind of found themselves a gem, and I can see him being in the NHL in a couple years' time. Next up, we got 2017 first-round selection, taken at number 15 overall, left shot defenseman out of Sweden, Erik Brannstrom. Now, Erik Brannstrom's not an overly big guy. He kind of fits the bill as a modern puck-moving defenseman who's really quick. He's about 5'11", 180 pounds. He's not overly huge, but he certainly makes up for it with his quickness and his intelligence. I mean, Erik Brannstrom is a really smart hockey player. Not only does he have really solid offensive skills, but it's rare that you get him caught out of position in his own end. He can be described as being very frustrating to play against for the opposing offensive players. He's got a good stick, good at intercepting passes and breaking up the plays in his own end. And once that happens, he can transition very quickly to offense. The guy's got a tremendous first pass out of the zone. He's a great passer, especially through traffic. He can absolutely thread the needle. Yeah, I think at the NHL, in my opinion, he could project to be a really strong power play player between his passing and his absolute bomb of a shot from the point. This guy can really shoot the puck, which is going to make him an attractive option for a power play quarterback. It's not just a big shot from the point, though, that makes that attractive. It's his ability to pass and get things set up. Like I said, he can absolutely thread the needle, especially through traffic. He's not afraid to go east-west and make those cross-seam passes, and he's really, really strong at it. I think it's safe to say Brannstrom certainly has top 4 potential, but I think I can also see him being a top pair guy. He can certainly log a lot of minutes and play the big important minutes as well. So for me, Brannstrom has certainly a high ceiling here to make it at the NHL. It's not totally clear when we could see Erik Brannstrom make the NHL. I think we could likely see him develop for one more year before he has a real shot in making that jump to the NHL level, but certainly is going to be sooner than later. Next up, we got 2017 first round selection at number 13 overall, Nick Suzuki. Now, obviously, the Vegas Golden Knights have had multiple first-round picks in the first round of the 2017 draft to get ready for their inaugural season. Not only were they loaded with draft picks, but they certainly put them here to good use. They got another gem here in center iceman Nick Suzuki. Suzuki plays in the OHL for the Owen Sound Attack. He's not an overly big guy. He's about 5'11", 180, 185 pounds. He had a tremendous season in the OHL last year, playing in 64 games and putting up 100 points. Now, you might make the argument that even his year before, 16-17 in junior, was incredibly strong as well. So there wasn't a huge improvement year over year. He has certainly shown in the past 2 years in junior that he has an absolutely tremendous offensive upside. Suzuki is a very dynamic, offensively gifted forward. Certainly projects to be a top 6 type of guy at the NHL level for sure. He can certainly make his line mates around him better. He's an incredibly good passer. He's a great stick handler as well. He can certainly make a lot of defenders look silly with his dekes and dangles for sure. Suzuki, like I said, he's very, very gifted that way. Not only is Suzuki very gifted with the stick handling, the dekes and dangles, but he does have a very quick release as well, a pretty good shot. He's a very quick skater as well, so he's still working on the acceleration and the explosiveness of his stride, but overall his skating is really solid. By far the biggest strength for Nick Suzuki though is his hockey IQ. He's an incredibly smart player. He just has an uncanny ability to find his teammates for passes where he does it without even looking. I've seen numerous clips of him doing no-look passes and certainly finding his teammates right on the tape. So his ability to stick handle and deke and dangle around defenders, as well as his incredible passing ability to set up his teammates, is absolutely phenomenal, which is allowing him to make his teammates better and certainly rack up a lot of assists. So I do see Nick Suzuki very, very likely here projecting as a top #1 or #2 center at the NHL level. More than likely going to be one more year of junior where he'll have an opportunity to hopefully make Team Canada this time and be a big part of that. And certainly hopefully have a chance here at the World Juniors to take home a gold medal, and that'll hopefully be huge for his development as well. And then the year after, in 2019, I fully suspect the odds of him making the NHL are likely pretty good. He may need a little time in the American Hockey League first. Next up, we've got 2017 first round selection, taken at number 6 overall, the very, very first pick in Vegas Golden Knights history, Cody Glass. Now, Cody Glass plays in the Western Hockey League for the Portland Winterhawks right now, and he's an absolutely tremendous offensively gifted top center iceman. He's got pretty good size. He's 6'2", but he's only about 170 pounds. Wouldn't hurt if he added a little bit more strength and muscle to that big frame of his, but he's certainly pretty close to being NHL ready. Now, Cody Glass, likely for me, projects to be a top 6 center iceman as well, like Suzuki. So they certainly have some really strong centers coming down the pipe. Now, of course, not all these strong centers end up playing center at the NHL level. Some of them end up becoming wingers. But either way, Cody Glass is another one who's incredibly smart. He has great vision, makes his line mates better. He's an incredibly good passer, which is certainly one of his stronger abilities. For me, Cody Glass is a typical #2 center. He's a guy who can not only set up his line mates and make them better, but he can also finish as well. So I do see him being a very strong offensively gifted player when he reaches the NHL. Cody Glass is another guy like Suzuki who could go back to junior this year and have an opportunity to play for Team Canada at the World Junior Championships. Now, he was one of the last cuts at the last tournament, which was, a little bit of a setback for Glass. I know something he was really looking forward to having an opportunity to do. Unfortunately, he didn't quite make the cut, but it's something that likely happens for him this year should he stay in junior. That could end up being very strong for his development because he'd have an opportunity to play not only on the team, but a bigger role as being one of the older players on the team as well. So it's something to look forward to. If Glass goes back to junior, it's certainly going to be great for his development. When Cody Glass was drafted, I'd say his skating was probably okay, but it wasn't great. Something he's continued to work on. It has shown that he's shown some improvement here over the past season, and something he's going to continue to work on as well in order to make his transition to the NHL a little bit better. I had mentioned that Cody Glass has soft hands and can be a good finisher. He actually has a really good wrist shot as well, and certainly is guilty of not shooting enough. He's certainly not a selfish player at all. Likes to set up his teammates and rack up the assists, which is great, and it shows good team play. But there certainly are times where we see a lot of guys at the NHL where they need to shoot more, and sometimes being a little bit more selfish is better for the team because it can result in more goals. But he does have a good shot, and I'd like to see him actually use it a little bit more in certain situations. So Cody Glass likely projects to me to be an NHLer next year, but it is quite possible going into training camp with Vegas this year, if he has a strong showing, that he could get a small sample size of games early in the year. Now, a few things about Cody Glass that you may or may not already know, but Cody Glass is certainly the type of kid you can say is an incredibly hard worker, and he has battled hard to get where he's at today. The Glass family has gone through a lot of turmoil since the Glass boys were young. He has a brother who played hockey as well. Unfortunately, never made it to the NHL, hasn't been drafted. But Cody Glass has had to go through quite a bit to get where he's at. When he was around 10 years old, his parents ended up going through a very, very bitter divorce, and he ended up separated from his father and brother for over 6 months. His mother really wanted to keep the boys separated for some reason, and he ended up living with his mother, which is not what he wanted. He wanted to be with his father and brother, and it took 6 months of legal battles for his father to actually regain custody and to get him back into the home with the two of them. Obviously, that made a big impact on the finances for the family. So Cody Glass's father struggled mightily to keep him in organized sports along with his brother. And as you know, hockey is not a cheap sport to participate in for sure. So at one point when he was playing like Pee-wee age hockey, he couldn't afford to keep him in it anymore, and he actually had to sit out some time and not play at the competitive levels. Cody's grandmother was instrumental to keeping him playing hockey at all. She basically had at one point had to take the family in and make sure that they had everything they needed to keep going in life here. And so Cody Glass has had to battle really, really hard in order to get where he's at. So this kid is a fighter. He's obviously had to go through a lot of turmoil as a kid, but he's battled hard to where he's at, and I do suspect him to keep battling to make sure he's successful and becomes a top player at the NHL level. So those are your top 6 prospects for the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, they had a lot of picks in the 2017 draft and put them to great use. They got a lot of great players. Now, again, just want to remind you, as I mentioned before, I'm going to link to some videos down below in the description on the Vegas Golden Knights channel that I want you to check out. There's some great prospect videos there for Cody Glass, Nick Suzuki, and a new one going up hopefully today on Erik Brannstrom. So I'm going to link to his channel into the playlist down below. So certainly go check this out if you want to see some highlights and a little bit further explanation and analysis on those top players. Next up, we're going to take a look at their 2018 NHL Draft selection. So I'm going to put a graphic up here full screen, and we'll go through all of their selections here one by one. The Vegas Golden Knights did not have a first-round selection in 2018. Obviously, that was traded to the Detroit Red Wings in the Thomas Tatar trade. But their first selection was in round 2, number 61 overall. They took a left winger out of Russia, Ivan Morozov. Their next selection was in the 4th round, number 99 overall. They took a defenseman of the BCHL, Slava Demin. Again, in the 4th round, number 115 overall, it took a center iceman in the USHL's Lincoln Stars, Paul Cotter. In the 5th round, number 135 overall, it took a forward from the Bowling Green University, Brandon Cruz. Also in the 5th round, number 154 overall, they took a defenseman out of the OHL's Windsor Spitfires, Connor Kokorin. In the 6th round, number 180 overall, it took an American defenseman, Peter Deliberator. Also in the 6th round, number 185 overall, they took a defenseman from the QMJHL's Baie-Comeau, Xavier Bouchard. And last but not least, in the 7th round, number 208 overall, they took a goalie from the London Knights and the OHL, Jordan Cooey. So those are your 2018 NHL Draft selections for the Vegas Golden Knights. Obviously, as I mentioned, they did not have a first-round selection that was moved to the Red Wings in the Thomas Tatar trade. The Red Wings ended up selecting center iceman Joe Veleno. Overall, though, Vegas did get a pretty good wide range of selection here of players. They took some forwards, some defensemen, another goaltender to add to their system as well. So it looks like they used their picks wisely here once again. They still have a lot of picks lined up here for 2019 and 2020 as well, so they can continue to stockpile those great-looking prospects here for the future. Now, if you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all of 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. I'm also going to link down below a playlist for all the other teams we've covered in this series so far. You can check those out if you haven't done so already as well. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.